Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is using what we've been calling the A times C method to factor a few problems. I'm going to be using a computer program that's just going to generate new problems for me. So I haven't seen these. I'm just going to do them as they come up. So the first one we have is 6x squared minus 25x plus 25. So I'm going to move that over to Word so I can write. So we have 6x squared minus 25x plus 25. Okay, so what you'll notice is that the number in front of x squared, that's a, is not 1. We have 6 is not a perfect square, so we don't have a perfect square trinomial. And these don't have a common factor other than 1. So we're going to use the A times C method. So the first step is to take this term. So the number in front of x squared is a, and the number without an x is c. So we're going to do a times c, which is 6 times 25. And if we multiply those together, we're going to get 150. Next, we need to find factors of 150 that add to the middle term, which is negative 25. All right, so we are finding what multiplies to 150 and adds to negative 25. Now, if you're not seeing this right away, you can use your calculator to figure this out. So if you go to y equals, so if I'm at my home screen, I'm going to y equals. And so what I need to multiply to, I'm going to do 150, because I have to multiply to 150, divided by x. I'm going to hit enter. On the second line, what I'm going to do is go to this button here that says vars. That stands for variables. And then I'm going to go to click on the right one so that I'm in y vars. And I want to be on function, so I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to hit enter on y1. After that, I'm going to go to plus x. After that, I'm going to hit second graph to go to my table. And so what you'll see is that these two numbers in the first two columns are what multiply to 150. In the third column, that's what the first two numbers add to. So for example, negative 3 and negative 50 are going to multiply to 150, and they're going to add to negative 53. Now what we're looking for in this last column is negative 25, which is right here. So negative 10 times negative 15 multiplies to 150, and it adds to negative 25. So these are the factors that I'm looking for. Okay, because over here I want to find factors of 150 that add to this middle term. So I'll write that down, so negative 10 and negative 15. So what we're going to do with these is we're going to rewrite the middle term. Okay, so the first term, 6x squared, is going to stay the same. And the last term, plus 25, is going to stay the same. What's going to change is the middle term. Instead of writing negative or minus 25x, we're going to rewrite it as minus 10x and minus 15x. Now, I'm going to write the 15 first just because 6 and 15 have a common factor, but it really shouldn't matter because there's a common factor for both terms, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Okay, so the next step is we're going to group the first two terms, and we're going to group the last two terms. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find a common factor between the first two terms, so 6x squared and negative 15x. Now, the first two terms are always going to have x in common, so you can pull out an x. And in front of the x, you want to put what factor do 6 and negative 15 have in common, and that would be 3. If you're having trouble finding the greatest common factor between those two terms, you can do this on your calculator, okay? Go to Math, scroll to the right one to Number, and then scroll down to GCD. Alternatively, you can click 9, okay? And then what you want to do is put in the two numbers you're looking for the greatest common factor for. So 6, and then never put in a negative here. Just put in whatever the number is, but put in the positive, okay? So 6, 15, the comma is right here. And if I hit enter, the greatest common factor is 3. So that's what we factored out. Okay. Over here, I'm going to put a parentheses, and inside the parentheses, what we're going to do is divide each term by 3x. So 6x squared divided by 3x is 2x. Negative 15x divided by 3 is negative 5. Okay, over here, always bring down the sign over here. So if there's a minus, I'm just going to bring down the minus. And then the term that negative 10 and 25 have in common is 5. And then we are going to divide each term by negative 5. So negative 10x divided by negative 5 is 2x. 25 divided by negative 5 is negative 5. You'll know you did this right if what you see in the parentheses is identical. The last step is we're going to combine what is outside the parentheses. So 3x minus 5, and group that together in parentheses and multiply that by 2x minus 5. And that's our answer. So the factored form using the A times C method would be 3x minus 5 times quantity 2x minus 5. What's nice about the program that I'm using is I can just click show solution, and it'll give me 3x minus 5 times 2x minus 5. Okay, let's do another one. So we have 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So let's write this over in Word. So I have 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So my term in front of x squared is not 1. The next question I ask, do I have perfect squares for the first and last term? The answer is no. And 7 is prime, so I know that these three terms don't have a common factor, so we're going to use the A times C method. In this case, A is 2. C is 6. So I'm going to do A times C, which is 2 times 6, which gives me 12. So now I need to find factors of 12 that add to the middle term, which in this case is 7. Okay, so what if I'm not immediately seeing this? I can use my calculator. So I'm going to go over here. I already have this written in, so I'm just going to delete 150. Well, I'll just delete this whole thing. I'm going to do 12 divided by x, and you can leave y1 plus x alone. That's going to give us exactly what we want. And I'm going to go to second graph. Because the 7 is positive, I know I'm probably going to have two positive integers. And so here we have 4 times 3 adds to 7. So my factors are 4 and 3. Okay, so we need to rewrite the middle term using our new factors, which is 4 and 3. So I'll go up here and say 2x squared plus 6 is going to stay the same. We're only rewriting the middle term. Plus 4x plus 3x plus 6. I am going to group my first and last terms, my first set and my last set terms together. I'm going to factor out common factor between the first two terms. You're always going to get x for the first two terms. And here the common factor is 2. Both of those are divisible by 2. And then in the parentheses, I'm going to divide both terms by 2x. So 2x squared divided by 2x is x. 4x divided by 2x is 2. Over here, always bring down this sign. So I'm going to put plus. And then the common factor between 3x and 6 is 3. 3x divided by 3 is x. 6 divided by 3 is 2. It's a good sign because the term inside the parentheses is identical. And then we're just going to combine everything. So 2x plus 3. So we're going to combine what's outside the parentheses and multiply by what's inside the parentheses. So, I'm sorry, my pen is not cooperating with me. X plus 2. And that's my answer. So 2x plus 3 times the quantity x plus 2. I can show my solution over here. 2x plus 3 times the quantity x plus 2. All right, let's do the next one. Let's get something a little bit. Okay, here we go. 4x squared minus 13x plus 9. So I'll just write that here. 4x squared minus 13x plus 9. Okay, now this one, my first and last terms are perfect squares. So we can test and see if this is a perfect square trinomial. The way I would test that is I would take the square root of the first term, which is going to be 2x. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of x squared is x. And then the last term, take the square root of 9, and that's 3. I'm going to multiply those together. So 3 times 2x gives me 6x. And then lastly, I'm going to multiply that by 2, and that gives me 12x. So that is not the same as the middle term. So this is not a perfect square trinomial, which means that we are going to have to use the A times C method for, okay. So A in this case is 4. C is 9. And 9 times 4 is 36. Okay, so we need to find something that, we need to find factors of 36. So what multiplies to 36 that add to negative 13. If you're not seeing this right away, you can go to your calculator. I can go to my y equals, and I can do negative 36, sorry, it was 36. 36 over x. Keep the y plus 1 the same, or the y1 plus x the same. I'm going to go to second graph, and I'm looking for factors that add to negative 13. And here I have negative 9 and negative 4 add to negative 13. So I know I need to use -4 and -9. So we're going to rewrite the middle term using our new factors. So I'm going to write 4x squared, and I know I'm going to have the 9, the plus 9 stays the same. We're just rewriting the middle term, so I'm going to do -4x minus 9x plus 9. We're going to group the first two terms together. I'm going to group the last two terms together. And we're going to factor out a common factor. The first two terms, remember, x is always going to be a common factor, and these are both divisible by 4. And so 4x squared divided by 4x is x, and -4x divided by 4x is -1. Okay, now this is really important. You have to remember to just bring down whatever sign is right here. Both of these are, the greatest common factor is 9. -9x divided by -9 is x. 9 divided by -9 is -1. So that's a good sign. I have the term inside the parentheses is identical. Last step, we take what's outside the parentheses, put it together, 4x minus 9, and multiply by the term inside the parentheses. And that's my answer. I can show the solution, and we get 4x minus 9, x minus 1. Okay, let's do one more. Again, I'm looking for something uglier. Okay, I like this one. 5x squared minus 42x plus 49. So we had 5x squared minus 42x plus 49. Let's just make sure I wrote that correctly. 5x squared minus 42x plus 49. Okay, the number in front of x squared is greater than 1. The last term is a perfect square, but 5 is not a perfect square. And there isn't a common factor other than 1 between these three terms. So we need to use the a times c method. A is 5, c is 49. So we can do 5 times 49, 245. So we need to find factors of 245 that add to the middle term. The middle term is -42. All right, so this isn't immediately jumping out at me. So I'm going to go to y equals, and I'm going to do 245 over x. Leave y1 plus x alone. And I'm going to go to second graph to get my table. Now, I'm going to be in the negatives because I need to add to -42. And again, this last column I want to be -42. So these multiply to 245. This is the sum of the factors. So let's keep going. Oh, there it is. -7 and -35 multiply to 245, add to -42. So -7 and -35. So we need to rewrite our middle term using our new factors. Now, this is going to be easier if I keep the -35 with the 5x squared and the -7 with the 49, because I know I'm going to have to factor something out from these, and I can already see they have common factors. So I'll rewrite the middle term. So 5x squared and the 49 are going to remain the same. And I'm going to do minus 35x minus 7x plus 49. We're going to group the first two terms together. We're going to group the last two terms together. And then we're going to pull out a common factor from the first two terms. It's always going to be x from the first two terms. And in this case, 5 is our common factor. 5x squared divided by 5x is x. Negative 35x divided by 5x is negative 7. Always remember to bring this sign down, so minus or negative. And then the common factor here is going to be 7. Negative 7x divided by negative 7 is x. 49 divided by negative 7 is negative 7. I did something right because my term in parentheses is identical. I'm going to take the terms outside the parentheses, put them together, and then multiply by the terms inside the parentheses. We can come and look at the solution. 5x minus 7 times x minus 7. I think that's a good number of examples for what we're calling the A times C method or the AC method. And it gave you some calculator tricks as well.